Welcome to UMass Sports Weekly, coming back after our spring break hiatus. Now joining me at the table to discuss UMass men's basketball, Chris Potomatis and Mark Jean-Louis. Guys, welcome back. How's spring break? Good break? Good week off? Good to hear. That's the generic question around here, so I figured I'd keep it going. UMass basketball, we could take the entire show if we wanted to talk about UMass basketball, but we're going to sum it up for you for a bit here. We followed them all season. Really good season for the Minutemen. You know, it was a lot what people were hoping for. Got in the tournament just like people were hoping for, but just a rough finish. Losing to Tennessee wasn't a pretty game pretty much the entire time. UMass was a 6 seed coming into the tournament. Tennessee was an 11 seed that had to get in through a playing game. Just a lot going on in the tournament, but first let's just talk about the Tennessee game. Chris, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think that it was certainly a rough game when you watch it. They were down 19 at half. They kind of dug themselves a quick hole, and it seemed like it was the same game that we've been watching for the second half of the season. Where unfortunately, UMass, I think it was the defense was the problem. They just let the team score too easily. They dig themselves a hole. And if you're playing URI, you can probably get out of that hole. Mm-hmm. But if you're playing a good team, even just an average team, you're going to have a hard time getting out of that hole. And in the NCAA tournament, I just thought they gave Tennessee way too much momentum, and they were really never able to fight back to it. They got it back within 10 at one point in the second half, but after that, Tennessee kind of stopped the bleeding, extended the lead, and really, I thought it was the big men for Tennessee that just had the outright advantage. Jarnell Stokes, 26 points, 14 rebounds. He was a beast in that game. The other big man, Maimon, he was also a beast. UMass just had no answer for those guys down low. Tennessee was just the more physical team. They shot well from the floor, over 50%, and really just from the get-go, it looked like UMass had no chance after they got down quickly.
Yeah, when you say big man for Tennessee,
huge
emphasis on the big there.
Absolutely.
We got some big guys in Caddy Lane and in Raphael Putney. I know Putney's not there with the weight. I probably weigh more than he does, but he's tall. He's up there at 6'9", 6'10", yeah. And these guys really just dwarfed our big men.
Yeah.
They were big in height, and they were big in weight, and it was muscle, and they were athletic, and they just didn't match up. And it was impressive to watch Tennessee outplay us so much.
Yeah, and it seemed like they also had a lot of second chance points too, where it seemed like our UMass have a good defensive stop, but then all of a sudden Tennessee gets the rebound, easy putback, or they kick it out, and they shot a higher percentage from the field. So it just seemed like UMass really had nothing going for them. They were out rebounded. They committed a lot more fouls, and also one more thing is that Tennessee shot 31 free throws and UMass shot 11. So that just tells you that Tennessee was more aggressive. They were getting to the free throw line. They were finishing. And really, Tennessee just absolutely controlled the game. And it was tough to see the season end that way. But what can you do? It's the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that foul shot differential, that's another story we've been hearing. The entire season it wasn't much of a difference in this game. I know it's 20 different free throw shots, but overall, they were just outplayed the entire game. We've seen them lose games on free throws. Just another problem that added up. And, yeah, they just didn't really look ready for the type of competition that Tennessee was bringing. Mark, what did you take out of this game?
Even going back to the playing game between Iowa and Tennessee, just the way that Tennessee, they just completely dominated Iowa in the second half to tie the game and then just completely blew them out in the overtime period. And so when Tennessee won that game, I was just looking on that and was like, oh no, I know that if UMass gets matched up against this team, they're going to have some trouble being able to stop their big men and Jerron Maimon and Jarnell Stokes. Like you said, both of them 6'8", 260 pounds. So there are some big guys at the 4 and 5. And when you put Raphael Putney at our 4, he's only 6'9" and 185. So you take that weight difference, 185, 260. Automatically, he's just going to have a hard time right there. Yeah. And it definitely showed. Jarnell Stokes, he had a very easy time to paint, 26 and 14. There was no one there who could stop him. Again, Jerron Maimon had 11 and 11, a double-double right there. No one could stop him. And aside from inside the paint, also around the perimeter and outside the paint, too. They were just having a field day against UMass. Even some of their other players, Jordan McRae had 21 points, and their other guard, Josh Richardson, had 15 points. So there's already 4 players there that got into double figures. And as far as UMass scoring, they just could not get the ball into the basket. In the first half, UMass, they shot 33% in the first half. They turned it on the second half. They shot 50%, but still by then it was too late. Chaz only had 12 points, so it was an off night for him. Maxi Esho had 12, Derek Gordon had 10, but then after that, there wasn't much offense going for UMass.
Yeah, you mentioned Jordan McRae of Tennessee. He played outstanding in that game. Really, I think established himself as an NBA prospect, getting a lot of looks, and that was just nothing. They couldn't contain him. And Chris, we were talking about earlier, we saw plays where they're having breakaway layups, and there was the play Trey Davis is catching up, and it's just a tap on the forearm to foul where you got to grab him or you let him go.
Yeah, that was frustrating, especially where a few times in the second half they're trying to make a run. They had it down to 10, they'd have it down to 12, 14. And all of a sudden, they're sprinting and it's a little foul. I mean, Tennessee, they have big players. They can go through contact and finish. It's like, and one. Yep. And Tennessee made their free throws. I think they shot like 77% from the free throw line. So really, I mean, I think Tennessee just dominated in every aspect. And the and-ones, I mean, those are frustrating when, the weak fouls and the finishes. And just at that point, it's almost like enough's enough. Just let them score. You're not helping anyone, really.
Exactly. I mean, as far as defense goes, UMass, they just could not stop the force that Tennessee was going through the entire game. I mean, at one point they were shooting like 68, 70% from inside the arc. So especially when you're shooting that good from inside the arc, it's tough to stop anyone, let alone Tennessee. And even in the fast break points, I mean, UMass, they might get a shot off, or maybe they don't get a shot off, and then the fast break, they just completely got dominated. Tennessee had 19 fast break points and UMass at 8. So again, it just shows you right there. Tennessee, they had much more athletic players than UMass. They were just not able to stop them, even though they do play a fast sort of game.
Yeah, just a lot of we could pick this game apart for the entire show. It was frustrating to watch because we were all looking forward to the tournament so much.
Absolutely.
But we don't want to let that get lost in the crap talking that we're doing about the Tennessee game. The fact that they did make the tournament, that was the ultimate goal at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
That's what everybody wanted to see, and I think they outdid everybody's expectations, including their own, including most of the country, when they became a 6 seed to get into the tournament. So it was a very good season for this team overall. Very exciting to watch. A lot of wins, a lot of good basketball out of the seniors. So we don't want to get that lost in this Tennessee game. So let's talk about the season as a whole for a bit. Got ranked as high as 13 at one point in the country. We're ranked for multiple weeks. We're just outside the rankings for most of the season. So I mean, overall, I would call this a season a success.
Yeah, definitely I would. I mean, if for no other reason that UMass is back in the map. I think now we've started to see, UMass getting more transfers and more recruits, which is obviously, crucial. We're losing seniors this year, so you have to replace them somehow. But you're right. I think people are talking about UMass basketball, which is absolutely a key when you're in the same state as Harvard, who made the NCAA tournament. BC and UConn's just right down the road to another powerhouse. But this season was good, and there was certainly a lot of hype, and rightfully so. They went out, they beat BC at the Garden, which at the time was a big game. They beat LSU at home in the season opener, or in the home opener on ESPN. They go in the Charleston Classic. They beat Nebraska. They beat New Mexico, who was number 19. They beat a lot of really solid teams. They beat BYU in Springfield, and I think they scored 100 points in that game, and Chaz went off. So really, I thought this team, up until conference play, they played great. Were they the 12th team in the country and ranked, and should they have been ranked higher than the teams like Duke? Maybe not, but I think they were hot. Other teams started off slower. But overall this year, it was a lot of fun to watch. Certainly had a lot of talent. I mean, Chaz, I don't care what team you root for. Chaz is always fun to watch. UMass plays an exciting brand of basketball, up tempo, push the pace, alley-oops. But this was a good season. 8-10's competitive. I think they did pretty good. They were finished like 6th in the regular season. But overall, I think there was more positives than negatives. They got back to the NCAA tournament for the first time in 16 years. And I think it's definitely a good, like I said, a good building block, and it's something to build upon now. Now that's the expectations to get to the NCAA tournament. It's going to be tough because we're losing some key players, but overall, a lot more positives than negatives came out of this year. Yeah,
you mentioned the seniors that we are losing. We are losing a solid core of this basketball team. And when you look at teams like that, it makes you nervous a lot of the times.
Sure.
When you're looking in the future years. But what's positive about this team, I think, is that this is a team that has been developed by Kellogg. This is a completely Derek Kellogg team. So all the recruits coming under are also Derek Kellogg recruits as well.
Right.
So there is some good that is coming up behind the senior class. We've seen some blinks of it in some players that have played this season. I don't want to give any names out yet. Mark, why don't you go over some of these guys that we saw this season that we're really going to be looking forward to in next season?
I mean, I think the first the first player that you need to start looking at is Trey Davis, who's going to be replacing Chaz Williams at the one position. I mean, there were some games this season where Trey Davis, he looked like the leader on the field. I mean, you know how Chaz Williams, when he's on the field, that's when things start happening. I mean, when you start putting Trey Davis in there, it's almost like as if nothing changed. I mean, like there were just some games where he can just go out there and lead the offense like he's going to be expected to do once Chaz Williams leaves. I mean, there were games where he put up 20 points and he's passing the ball. He's passing the ball around very well to some of the other players, Derek Gordon, Max Iasho, Derek Gordon. Sorry, I said Derek Gordon already. Excuse me, but Callie. But yeah, especially. So that's one of them. That's one of the players I'm going to be looking forward to. Trey Davis. The other player I want to really look forward to next year is Clyde Santee. I mean, this is a guy who's a 3-star recruit out of Texas, number 57 point guard in the nation. So there you go, top 75 guard in the nation. I mean, I think he's 6'7", so I think that we can replace him with Samson. We can replace Samson Carter with him, and it's definitely going to go. It's definitely going to go a long way for UMass going forward, I think. So.
Yeah, Santee has definitely got some bright spots around him. Definitely a lot of hype around him as well. We saw some good stuff out of him during this season. So a lot going to be looked forward with him. Chris, he's not the only one we're going to be looking forward to as well.
Yeah, I think we saw Demetrius Dyson get a lot of playing time this year. He has certainly had the most playing time out of any freshman. It'll be interesting to see if he can take that next step. I thought one player that was really, like you said, with the bright spot was Trey Davis. He was a guy, an A-10 player, he came off the bench and averaged double figures, one of the best three-point shooters. So there's a lot of bright spots for this team. Derek Gordon looked good and got better as the season went on. So really, I just think that there is a lot of bright spots. We're losing some players, but we're also getting some more in development too.
Yep, and the A-10 really only getting stronger. We saw 6 teams make the tournament. Right. And I just want to say, Chaz Williams got snubbed on A-10 Player of the Year. Better numbers than Jordair Jett of St. Louis in every single category. Not to take anything away except for the A-10 Player of the Year award. I'll take that away and give it to Chaz. Guys, great stuff. We're rooting for Dayton right now, I'd say, right? Sweet 16, A-10 repping. Good stuff, guys. Appreciate it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with baseball and softball.